Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Lifeboat Live with me, Absolutely Arian. And I am very excited to be back. Listen, we had a little bit of a hiatus these last couple of weeks due to, well, last week being YLC, and the week before that was Thanksgiving, and then YLC. Sorry. So we took a little break so that we could one fellowship together at YLC, two have family time. But we are back, and I am excited as this is the prelude to the season finale of the Lifeboat Live for this year. So that means the next episode would be the season finale, and we will be back in February. But fear not, I will still be putting out content. So make sure that you follow me on Instagram at Absolutely Arian to just get the updates on what's going on, and also get some little quotes of inspiration and some little video inspiration to keep going into the new year. So I'm glad if you are here watching with me tonight, make sure to let me know who you are in the comments. I would always love to shout you out and also know who's in the room with me. If it doesn't say live in the corner anymore, or you don't see a red around your screen if you're on YouTube, then that means that we are no longer here and you are now watching on the replay. But welcome. If you leave a comment, I'll always go back and read them and leave a little comment in there as well. So thank you as you come in. Make sure that you hit share, hit like, send up those hearts. Let me know who you are. I would love to read your comments and engage with you as we go along in tonight's topic. So let's see. Tonight I want to talk about what the topic is tonight. It doesn't hurt anymore, right? And have you ever been, listen, tonight is not going to be a very long night, but have you ever been injured badly to the point that like you just knew that you had an injury, it hurt, you were in pain, and it subsided, but it still hurt, and you still had to maybe even go through rehab or some kind of rehabilitation therapy, and even after that there was still soreness or stiffness, and then all of a sudden it didn't hurt anymore and you just didn't even realize that the pain was gone. Well, if that's ever happened to you, put your hand up. Right? Listen, I had an aha moment today that I'm going to share with you guys. But before I do that, hey, Alicia, so glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining. Why don't you tag some of your friends in the comments, have them come in and join the conversation. I would love to hear from you guys, whoever else is in the room today. Okay, so on the Lifeboat Live, I always share my life lessons along life's journey. I tell a little bit of my business because, unfortunately, that comes to the territory. Well, not unfortunately, fortunately, that comes to the territory. And we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And testimony records truths. And this is what I have been called to do, and therefore, I'm gonna tell it. I'm gonna tell it like it is. So thank you so much for sharing, Elisa. I really appreciate it. And so today I had a moment that was profound for me, right? And if any of you know my testimony, any of you guys know where I started from, you would know that my journey into my Christianity, into my serious journey into salvation was brimstone. It was I was birthed through fire. Okay. The day that I decided in my mind that I wanted to serve God for real, the devil said, "Nope." And everything that possibly could go wrong in my life started to go wrong. I mean, losing relationships, friendships, jobs, um, just contention with the closest people to me. And it was just a fight on every single end. Every single part of my life started to just crumble. Um, and it was for my good. But at the time, it was hard to see. And so, I've shared this testimony before. Like, my introduction into, especially if I've always shared my testimony. I grew up in the Anglican church. If some of y'all don't know what that is, it's kind of like a derivative of the Catholic Church. It's very traditional, uh, Orthodox in some senses, in some ways, and just very far from like the charismatic movement, right? And so I was introduced into the charismatic church when I was about maybe 17 or 18 years old. Um, and, I liked it, kind of got into it slowly but surely. And then eventually, um, I decided to become, or I started going to a Pentecostal apostolic church. And first time really around people who spoke in tongues and all that stuff. And so I was slowly but surely, adapt to the cultural differences that I didn't grow up in. Um, but one thing that really drew me to the church, was really the word. I had never heard the word preached in such a passionate and truthful way. I had never heard the word preached in a way that was so touching and drew me in a way that just piqued my curiosity. And I've always been an inquisitive person. I've always been curious. I've always wanted to learn. I've always been intrigued by the Word of God. Um, and I remember just having sat in a service one day and heard the Word of God in a way that I had never heard before. Um, and I wanted more, and all I knew is that I wanted more. And so that was the beginning of my induction into the church. And so um I became very not just curious but just very zealous for the word. I was very zealous for this discovering this Christ that was presented to me in a way that I had never heard it before. And um but I had a hard time adapting to the culture. Um because I it was very opposite to what I had known. I wasn't used to head coverings and skirts and no jewelry and all that stuff, and it was just very odd for me. But again, the word kept drawing me back in, and I had um, a very enlightening moment coming into the church, but at the same time, I had a very traumatic experience. Like when some of y'all talk about church hurt, um, uh, the stuff that I had gone through, most people would never step foot back in a church. Okay, uh, without going into, because I've told my testimony before, but without going into all the details, um, I was the same. I was a part of a congregation, right? That um the same people who introduced me and and nurtured me, or um presented to me this new way of looking at Christ also turned around and crucified me and nailed me to a cross, right? And this happened all within the first year of me really seriously wanting to give my life to Christ in a serious way. Uh, and it crushed me to my core because the people who I looked up to spiritually, the people who I looked up to, um, to show me and to guide me, uh, were the ones who lied on me, were the ones um, who embarrassed me, who insulted me, who abandoned me, who dropped me when I needed them the most. The people who I looked up to were the ones who turned their nose up at me and no longer wanted fellowship with me. The people who I looked up to um, told such severe and impactful lies on me, um, that I was left out in the dark as a leper, and I I had no idea what was happening, right? I was left out in the dark to not know what was happening, why it was happening to me. And no matter where I turned to look for support or for advice or for even clarity on what was going on, I was locked out completely, right? It was such a painful experience for me because here I am wanting to serve the Lord, finally deciding that I want to be a part of this community, this, and wanting to be, um, to grow in this community, and the same community that showed me Christ, then turned around and uh, threw me out like a dog on the streets. And so there were, very specific people who I was very in close relationship with, who, you know, turned their back on, who I was surprised turned their back on me, and it hurt the most. And there was this one particular person who I was very close with. She was like a sister to me. She was my closest friend, my confidant, my prayer partner, my, just somebody who I leaned on, somebody who I would who's who I cried to, who, just knew the pain that I had experienced. Um, turned their back on me as well. And that thing hurt me. And I mean, it hurt me for a very long time. I mean, like years. There were nights where I would soak my pillow in tears because I was so hurt by just the stonewalling that I received. I was completely locked out, and again with no idea why. It was so painful that I couldn't get over it. It was worse than it was worse than a really bad breakup. It was so painful that um every time that I would be or would, kind of stumble across their presence, uh I would have immediate anxiety and stomach aches and anger and hurt and a multitude of emotion that I couldn't even I couldn't even be comfortable in the same room. It was so it took such a toll on me, and for almost 2 years, I was completely locked out, right? And so, I'm giving you all this backstory, um, because it was a significant injury for me, a significant emotional injury, um, a significant mental injury. It was traumatic to the point that it affected for a long time how I even interacted with other people in the church. I was scared to even make new friends or make new acquaintances. I was very closed off, and still sometimes I'm a little like, you know, because I couldn't believe, it was just a very it was a very severe injury, emotional injury, and it caused a trauma that was deep, a cut that was deep, a wound that was deep. And so, um for I remember almost 2 3 years later, every time I would see that particular one of those people, it would bring tears to my eyes. It was as if I was reliving the story. It was as if I was reliving the injury. Um, Ashley said, "So glad God healed you. I'd be lost without your friend." Oh, thank you, Ashley. That was so sweet. Yeah, I had a hard time wanting to make friends. Whenever people would try to get close to me, it would be to a certain degree and a certain level, because I wouldn't allow anyone close to me because of how the carpet was just pulled so swiftly from under my feet. It kept me off kilter for a very long time. And so, again, like I said, I'm not going to be before you long tonight. This is going to be very short and sweet, because sometimes it doesn't need to be all dragged out. But um today I had an epiphany. Now, this thing happened so long ago. So long ago. It's been almost, I want to say almost 8 9 years ago that this happened to me. And I I was just dumbfounded today, because there was a time that, even very I felt like it wasn't that long ago, that you know when certain names would be brought up to me, or that even that church was brought up to me, I would still have a rolling eye sensation, and just like a "Ugh, whatever," moment, where like, I just didn't even I don't care to hear even about it or them. And because anyhow, so today I had a moment that was so profound, because I was on the train today, and the person who injured me the most, who was the person I was the closest to, who I saw as a sister a, a sister and a close friend. Um, I had not seen her in years. I have not seen her in a long time, and I ran into her today on the train. And initially, I did not even recognize her, you know. But as time went by, and I walked by her, and I realized, hold on, that's so and so. And where in the past anxiety would start to rise up, my chest would start to tighten, where my heart would start to pound out of my chest, I would start to relive the trauma and the anxiety of the moment that I had experienced initially, how many years ago, would still affect me every time I saw this person. Did not happen at all. Matter of fact, I almost forgot what happened. When I saw her, there was no physiological reaction to the person who had inflicted so much pain, that like I said, I cried for 2 years. Um, for 2 years about this situation. I couldn't talk about it without completely falling apart, because it was that hurtful, and it was such a big of a betrayal. And I realized today, when I saw her, that it didn't hurt anymore. It didn't hurt anymore. And I thought to myself, Isn't it amazing how God, when you hand something over to God, sometimes there can be immediate healing, and sometimes there's healing along the way. Hmm? It's like those lepers when he sometimes he healed them right on the spot, and there was others who were healed along the way. And I realized that it was a journey. The healing did not happen overnight, but I continued to pray and ask God to help me with forgiveness. Ashley says, "Isn't it amazing how God heals us in real time and we don't even realize he's doing a work until these types of moments?" Absolutely. I didn't realize that there was a healing that had taken place that had taken me from Lodabar, huh? To I was at the lowest, to a place where I don't even remember that I almost didn't even remember that there was an injury. It took me a moment to even recognize the person who had almost half left me to die. And it was such a profound moment for me because I didn't know that I would ever completely get over the pain of the moment. I'm a little stuffy right now. I'm in a hotel room and I don't know what's going on right now, but I'm not emotional. It's just my sinuses acting up. Just FYI. But like I'm sorry. So I I know it's funny. I promise this is an emotion. But I couldn't believe the how God had really washed my heart. And I had prayed about this for a long time, prayed for years, like, Lord, like, wash my heart, help me to forgive, help me to be at a place of complete healing and wellness. Help me, Lord, that I can. I prayed that, Lord, that I could be at a place one day where I could see them and it not affect me the way it once did. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you for giving me the permission to cry. I know it's okay. My God. But I had a revelation on how healing can take place. God sometimes will is working on you and operating on your heart. Once you give over a situation to him that is his word said, give me your burden, right? It's not too heavy for him to carry because he went up on the cross so that we could have life and have it more abundantly. And I gave that burden over to him years ago, although it still hurt, although it still pained me, but I decided that I wasn't going to carry that thing anymore. I decided that I wanted to heal. I decided that I wanted wellness within me. I decided that I wanted liberty. I decided that I wanted to be free of this thing because I knew that I could not progress, I could not grow, I could not get to a different level without having forgiveness in my heart. And forgiveness was a decision I had to make. I had to make a decision, and forgiveness, sometimes we think that forgiveness is letting the person get away with the offense. We think that sometimes that forgiveness is allowing them to um, to not have consequences for their actions, right? And so when we hold a grudge and unforgiveness in our heart, we feel like we're doing something to them. But half the time, most of the time, I would say 5% of the time, they've continued living their life while you are still angry, while your anger and your hurt is turning into bitterness, while it's turning you into stone, while it's making you cold, while it's making you unable to make new connections, make new friendships. It's holding you down to a place where you are unable to be who you are made and called to be, because you are holding on to this hurt and this pain so tight that it's only doing damage to yourself. Right? But when you decide to give that thing over to God and allow Him to heal your heart, when you give that thing over to Him in a sincere way, and that doesn't mean that when you give it over to Him that it stops hurting immediately, because it doesn't. It still hurts for a little while, but continue to walk, and that healing is going to come along the journey. Continue to live, continue to make a conscious decision daily. And every time that thing comes back to your remembrance and that you get angry again, make a conscious decision in that moment to forgive them again. Every time that thing boils your blood again, every time it comes back and pricks you again, decide to forgive again. And do it for as long as you have to, until that moment comes where it doesn't hurt anymore. And it's going to stop hurting. It's going to stop hurting because you're not even going to realize that when you continue to forgive and move it by faith, believing that God is able to do exceeding abundantly above all you could ever ask or think, when you believe that God is able to take that heart and make it white as snow, when you believe that God is able to take your burdens, right? When you believe that God, with all things, that when you give all things over to Christ, that He will make a way. When you believe it again and forgive again and again and again, it will eventually stop hurting you. Yep, that is it. Every time you remember, forgive again. And like I said, forgiving doesn't mean that it stops hurting, but it will eventually, because when you forgive, when you give that over to God, when you forgive those who trespass against you, you see what we think that sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too. When we believe that, we're gonna put this thing in part because God said vengeance is His, so we're gonna sit down and wait for God to have His way, and the vengeance to come to pass, and we just waiting for them to catch gangrene and lose their toe, or we're just waiting for God to strike lightning on them, and they just drop. Because I promised you a few years ago, if I had run into her, I would have been like, you still alive? Because the way you touched the Lord's anointed, how you still in the land of the living? God didn't get to you yet? And we have that mentality, and I'm just saying this in jest right now, but I was so serious. I was like, how have you touched God's daughter like that and you still alive? But the truth of the matter is that she's God's daughter too. And sometimes vengeance looks like it's not what we think it should look like, because God is not a man like us who is going to be petty and be and do things in a way that is calculated, is malicious, I should say. Malicious, look that up in the dictionary. You ain't raptured? No, not raptured. You haven't been condemned yet, Brimstone and fire. So, but God's vengeance doesn't necessarily look like what we want it to look like. Like I said, it's not going to look like, they catch gangrene, diabetes eating their toes. That's not what it's going to always look like. Sometimes the vengeance is the fact that they continue walking in circles like the children of Israel for 40 years around the desert because they haven't learned how to be repentant yet. Sometimes the vengeance is that they cannot move from where they are until they learn how to treat people better. Hmm? Sometimes the vengeance is that they are stuck walking in the bitterness that they have because they refuse to repent and be sorry for their actions, right? And you move on. You are healed now. You have moved from glory to glory. You have been justified. You have been called. You have been sanctified, and you continue to move from glory to glory while they are still walking in 40 years and 40 years in circles, in cycles, in cycles, in cycles until they decide to get it right. And you may not see it. You might not get pleasure. You may not get like, yes, God got him. You might not get that satisfaction that you're looking for, but that's not for you to have. The satisfaction is not for you. Your satisfaction is growing from it. Your satisfaction is taking it and turning it into a lifeboat. Huh? Alicia says, as hard as it feels, pray that God have mercy on them. We all need grace and mercy. Absolutely. Sometimes your vengeance is that you get to take the lesson, right, and turn it into a lifeboat. And that doesn't mean, and what I mean by that is you turn it into a moment, a learning moment, an opportunity to minister, an opportunity to bless others, an opportunity to deliver others who are in the same state as you, to show people that there is a way, to show people that they can be delivered to show people that there is healing when you decide to kneel at the cross and lay your burdens down. That is the victory in the situation. The victory isn't watching somebody else's demise. The victory is to go from level to level and to be able to take it and turn it into something fruitful. And so I had a moment today where I was shocked because I hadn't even realized that it didn't hurt anymore until I was faced with it, because every time I was faced with it, it hurt. Every time I was faced with it, there was tears in my eyes. Every time I was faced with it, I was, going home angry. Can't believe that they had the audacity to sit in the same room as me 8, 10 years later, or whatever it's been, you know what I mean? And still never acknowledge the hurt and the pain they caused me, never apologize for what they've done, never acknowledge the lies that they helped spread and the rumors that they told on me when I was a new Christian. I was just trying to follow God. I was just trying to learn this thing. I was just trying to learn how to pray. I was trying to live this new life that was zealous and excited to live. I was trying to build community. I wanted to be a part of the family. And like Joseph, I was thrown into a pit and left to die by my own brethren. And I didn't even know what I had done to deserve it. And I hadn't done anything to deserve it. And for years, every time I saw them, I would weep. But today I realized it doesn't hurt anymore. And it was a powerful moment because it took a long time, but healing came. And I have to say that, listen, you almost made me shout in here, Ashley, huh? I just felt a quickening in my spirit. He turned my mourning into gladness, huh? He took my sorrow and turned it into joy. Well, I need to, listen, I almost got a shout in here. I got a shout in here. Huh? So powerful. Thank you. Listen, make sure that if you're in here, share this, because this is a testimony for somebody, because there's so many people holding on to hurt, holding on to pain, offense. And let me tell you something, that a spirit of offense, all it is a snare from the enemy. It's a trap. It's a trap to keep you locked into a place where you can no longer grow, because you are holding on and being weighed down by the rocks and the weight that your hurt, when your hurt turns into bitterness, it turns weight into a rock. It turns into stone, and it literally weighs you down, and you're no longer able to move forward and to move higher, because literally unforgiveness keeps you stagnant. It literally keeps you in place. And it's so important to forgive every time that thing comes to your memory. Every time you see that person again and you feel that dagger put in your heart again, I forgive you. Forgive you. And I promise you, one day along that journey, you're going to realize that thing don't hurt no more. Because the truth of the matter is, I left my burden with God, and He did the rest. That's all. I'm wiser. I'm better. I'm stronger. And I've now been able to take what was once a shackle, what was once an entanglement, what was once fetters on my feet. Yes, a prison of unforgiveness. I was able to, when I was able to decide that I was going to walk out of it and leave that thing with God, here I am today, to walk in to the same person who hurt me severely, and I was able to not even remember, barely remembered them. And it took me even a moment to remember what it is that the connection was. Oh yeah. And then when I did remember, when it did come back to my remembrance, it didn't hurt anymore. And thank God. And I give God glory for that, because I realized today that I was healed. And I don't know when it happened. I didn't know exactly what time it happened. But all I know is that when I was faced with it again, it was gone. And I God. And so whoever is in here, but God, Alicia, yep. Whoever is in here right now, make sure you hit share. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this has you to know about the power of forgiveness. And we know we talk about this all the time. We talk about the power of forgiveness, and we know we say, like I said, it's easier said than done. But make sure that you make a logical choice, because it's not an emotional choice to forgive. It's very cerebral. It's a decision. Forgive, and the rest will come. The healing will come. So thank you so much again for joining me tonight. Next week will be the finale of the Lifeboat Live. We've had a long year of Lifeboat Lives and life lessons, and we will be on a hiatus for the holiday season, back in February, with a brand new season of the Lifeboat Live. But make sure you follow me on Instagram at Absolutely Arian for some updates on the content, some more inspirational quotes, and some videos that I'll be dropping. Make sure that you are there with me for any updates. Pastor Hopton says that is the key to know when you have forgiven is when you see or hear the person and you don't feel any hurt. Yep, it didn't hurt anymore. Today I saw them and it did not hurt anymore. And all I could say was thank you, Jesus. Um, and so yes, so make sure that you hit share. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, make sure you go on YouTube, go to the Lifeboat with Absolutely Arian, and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you hit those thumbs up, and hit share right now, and let somebody else hear this testimony about the power of forgiveness and the decision to forgive and how healing can take place, and you not even realize that God has done a work on your heart once you have decided to give him the burden. You guys are great. Make sure that you tune back in, set your notifications, turn them on for the live. You will not miss the season finale. I'm excited about next week. So make sure that you join me, and we'll close this thing out with a bang. So until then, Ceylon.